Hello children, today we're out here looking for pollinators. Now, when you think of pollinators, you're probably only thinking of like butterflies and bees, but there's a lot more different kinds of pollinating insects other than that. We're also out here looking for wasps, flies, ants, beetles, whatever you could find that counts as a pollinator. So let's see how many different species we could find this one trip alone.
This beautiful butterfly is the Carolina satyr. This individual is admittedly a little worn, but this is still an amazing butterfly to find, as they're an extremely elusive species of butterfly that lives in these kind of wooded areas with leaf litter and stuff on the ground. This tiny one was going in between either landing on logs on the ground, or on shrubs. Believe it or not, predatory flies like robber flies, like this Triorla interrupta right here, also count as pollinators, since many robber flies specialize in eating bees and wasps, which are themselves pollinators. Robber flies, especially those that live in the open, more flowery areas, like this Triorla interrupta here, also contribute to the pollinating cycle that helps spread the flowers throughout the environment. From massive to tiny robber flies, this cute Amatius gemma is an amazing find for me personally, because not only is it my first time ever catching this species, it is also my first time seeing one in Florida. This species is quite a bit smaller than the more common Amatius floridensis, and has a more diffuse yellow color on the legs. The defining characteristic is the presence of stiff hairs on the scutellum.
Red tube-flowered plants, like this firebush right here, a native South Florida species of plant, are great for attracting many different kinds of pollinators, especially bees and wasps.
This brightly patterned male, orange-barred sulfur, is a very common species of butterfly found in South Florida. However, it's very rare to have one sit or fly very close to me for this long and let me get this good of footage. Ants, like this compact carpenter ant, are surprisingly really good pollinators. As they go from flower to flower drinking the nectar, they also bring along with them the pollen that is necessary for spreading these flowers. While unfortunately the compact carpenter ant is invasive, I've also seen native Florida carpenter ants doing this very same thing. Flies, like this flesh fly of some sort, I can't tell what species, do the very same thing as ants. While you might not immediately think of them as pollinators, them drinking the nectar out of these flowers also spreads the pollen around, just like the ants. So this also classifies like flesh flies and other random flies that you might see around as pollinators, even if you might not think of it that way. This firebush, though, was absolutely coated in more classic pollinators, the wasps and bees. This specific wasp was some sort of typhid wasp, a group of wasps that is very difficult and sometimes impossible to identify. This Polistes bahamensis is not a paper wasp I see very often, and can be easily identified by the all-black bases of the legs, or coxae, as well as the bright orange contrasting tips of the antennae. They're a medium-sized paper wasp species. This wasp was some member of the genus Lyris, a genus of square-headed wasps that I normally find on the ground. Seeing one pollinating a flower like this was something I'd never seen before, and was really interesting to observe. This gorgeous wasp is some member of the genus Anopleus. I believe it is Anopleus americanus based on the pattern of red, though I can't be sure. These are called spider wasps because they lay their eggs inside of spiders, where the larvae will eat the spider alive. My personal favorite find of this whole day, though, was my lifer, Lara bicolor, a really interesting species of wasp that have as interesting of a story as their striking coloration. They lay their eggs inside invasive mole crickets and were actually introduced to Florida for that purpose. This video only scratched the surface of the insane biodiversity of pollinators in the area around me. Without this insane biodiversity of pollinators, the ecosystem would just collapse. If you would like to help document as many pollinators as possible, just post every pollinator you see during the month of September onto iNaturalist, and if your local area is participating in the Parks for Pollinators BioBlitz, then it'll automatically add that to your local project. You don't have to worry about it. This is just one of the many things all of us could do to help preserve these amazing animals.